My name's Anisa Kanji. I'm 28 years old. I am married and I live in London. I was brought up in Birmingham and I specialise in tax. In my spare time, I am the Assistant Secretary General of the World Federation. My family is really important to me. They play a key role in my life. I am the oldest sibling of 3, so I have 2 younger brothers, and from a young age my parents have always instilled in me the importance of keeping in touch with my family. We regularly meet for Eid, we'll meet up on bank holidays and random weekends. My family are really special to me. They play a key role in my life, in my key decisions. They share in my joys and my happiness, and they're there with me when I need advice. I remember when I graduated from university, I was the oldest sibling, so I was the first one to graduate, and I remember there was about 10 of us that turned up to my graduation. That was really special to me because so many of my family members made the effort to go, and they shared in my joy with me. My grandmother in particular plays a really important role in my life. She's the elder member of our family and she keeps us all joined up. And I often hear that people say they haven't spoken to their grandparents in months, or they don't really know what to say to them, or they can't speak the language, so they can't speak Gujarati or Kutchi and they find it difficult to communicate. But I find that it's so important to keep in touch with them, especially our elder grandparents. And they bring so much barakah into our life when we have those conversations with them, and just maintaining those family relations is so important. In my spare time, I am the Assistant Secretary General of the World Federation. My role involves a lot of strategy, a lot of thinking, communications and marketing, and also some secretariat work. I work full-time, so often it's difficult to balance both a full-time job, home life, and my voluntary roles. But I always find that when you do community work, you get so much more back in return. You get more back than actually what you give. My community work, I always feel that I need to find that work-life balance. For me to find that balance, I live by one key principle that I try to apply, and that is making sure that I have time for myself. So I always take the analogy of an airplane. So when you're on an airplane, they always tell you, make sure you put your own oxygen mask on first. Because unless you put your own oxygen mask on first, you can't help others. And in the same way, when you're doing your community work and you're doing everything else in your life, you can't help others unless you help yourself. And unless you look after yourself and make sure you have time for you, the work that you're then doing will be limited. So for me, I'll always spend time on making sure I've got time out. And through that, it allows me to continue the work that I do and make sure that I maintain some sort of balance. For me, the World Federation's opened my eyes to the endless opportunities that are available, not just for women in our community, but also the youth. So you look at the office bearer team of the World Federation, which is our management team. There's 6 of us and our average age is 37, which compared to many other organizations is quite young. But it also allows us to identify that there are so many opportunities out there for us. For us, if we want to change our community, we need to instill and trigger those changes within our community. So there's a well-known quote that says, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." And unless we give back to the community, we can't see our community changing or progressing. There's a quote by Marhum Mullah Askar, who's the founder of the World Federation, that really sticks by me, which says, "I don't pray for the acceptance of my amal as much as I pray for the opportunity to serve. And when he grants me a new opportunity to serve, I know my last one has been accepted." Opportunities are blessings for us. Not everyone gets the opportunity to serve the community. And when we get those opportunities, we should grab them. Everyone has their own skill set and their strengths, and we need to use that for the betterment of our community. So someone may be good in organizing, or someone may be good in communication skills or recitations. We should use those skills that we have to help the community progress, to move our community forward, and to prepare for the coming of our Imam. I went to Iraq for the very first time in December 2013, and alhamdulillah, I was blessed with the opportunity to go again the following year for Arba'een. Every time you go to Iraq, you experience something different. But every time you go, you still have this feeling of peace and warmth. When you go to Iraq, you are the guest of the Imams, and the Imams really look after you. I feel that I get wrapped in cotton wool when I go there. I leave all my issues, all my concerns, all my problems there, and I hand them over to the Imams, and I leave without them. But when you go to Iraq, and especially when you go to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you tell Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I wish I was there with you. I wish I was there with you on Ashura Day. But everything that we do when we're in Iraq, we need to connect back to the Imam of our time. So the Imam of our time is alive now, but how are we preparing for his return? How are we preparing so that we are with him when he returns? He is our living Imam, and how are we strengthening our relationship with him? This year when I went, last year when I went, I decided I wanted to take something different from each of the personalities that I visited, or each of the personalities that played a key role on the day of Ashura. So from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I took the importance of praying on time for my salah. I took that no matter what I'm doing, praying namaz on time is the key thing. Strengthening my relationship with Allah is something that I need to work towards. From Ahlulbayt alayhi salam, I took the characteristic of courage and standing up for the truth and standing up for justice. And from Sayyidah Zainab salamullahi alayha, I took the importance of strength. I took the importance of strength and the importance of my hijab. Strength when you're going through difficulties and you need that help. Strength when you need to connect with Allah and ask Him to give you that strength. But at the same time, it's important to remember that when you go to Iraq, you're not just visiting the personalities that are in Najaf and Karbala. You also visit the personalities in Kazmain. So for example, Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam and Imam Jawad alayhi salam, and our 10th and 11th Imam in Samara. Each of our Imams played a key role in Islam and portraying the message of Islam and getting that message of Islam to us today. How are we connecting with them? How are we strengthening our relationship with them? And the last time I went to Iraq, that was my key message that I took away. How am I connecting with the Imams that we're considering as less important? Because actually each Imam is just as important, but do our actions show differently? It hits me that, like for example, when you go to Kazmain, you're walking into the Haram and you see the Haram for the first time, but you see people laughing, and you don't see people seeing the importance of Kazmain in the same way as when they're walking into the Haram of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when you're filled with so much grief. But at the same time, when you go to Kazmain, you should also be filled with so much grief. And I think for me, when I go to Kazmain, for me, it's a lot more about, to a certain extent, I think I feel guilt a little bit because I don't know them enough, but that's a different story. Society has changed, and so has the way we use technology. Technology has so many benefits. It allows us to connect with people around the world within seconds. But sometimes I feel we may not experience the moment or live in the moment. So I remember when I went to Iraq for the very first time, me and my husband Sahel had just completed our walk from Najaf to Karbala. It was 80 kilometers. It was 3 long days. We hadn't slept much. We were exhausted. And it was Arba'in night. And we joined a group to walk into the haram of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam for the very first time. And I remember we walked into the haram, and I remember telling myself that I wasn't going to take my phone out. I wasn't going to take any photos. I wasn't going to take any videos, because I wanted to experience the moment. I wanted to connect with my Imam. I wanted to experience what it felt like to walk into the haram of Imam Hussein alayhi salam for the very first time. And I wanted to give my salam to Imam Hussein alayhi salam as I walked in. And I remember looking around me, and I remember looking at the number of phones that were out, the number of people that took photos, that took videos to treasure those moments. But at the same time, I questioned how many people really experienced the moment as they were busy taking those photos and videos. Did they miss out on that moment of connecting with the Imam? And I think sometimes when we look at life around us, are we missing so many beautiful moments around us? So are we failing to appreciate some of the small things? So for example, quality time for dinner with family, or going for a nice walk, or watching the sunset. Are we missing those moments because we're too busy on our phones or too busy watching the TV? Are we not living in the moment as much because of technology? I've become more conscious of the role that technology plays in my life. So for me, I will regularly have something that I've termed phone-free evenings. So put away the phone, don't look at it. It allows me to recognize that it's okay if I don't respond to a WhatsApp message straight away or respond to an email within seconds. Those emails and messages will still be there the next morning. It allows me to really connect with those around me and really appreciate the small things in life. I've been married 5 years, alhamdulillah, and since that time, marriage has changed me. It's changed me for the better, but it's allowed me to change my perspective on life, change my way of thinking, and change the way I live Islam. I connect with Allah. I remember when I first met Sahel, I told him that I really wanted my marriage to be something that allows me to get closer to Allah together. I wanted my marriage to be something that allowed me to get closer to Allah. I want my husband to be more than just a spouse. I want him to be my best friend. I want him to be someone I turn to when I've got problems and issues, someone I talk to when I need advice, but someone who will always be there to celebrate my successes, no matter how small. I think we're working towards it, and our journey towards Allah is slowly but surely going there. I think it's important to take small steps together, because our journey towards Allah isn't an easy one. It's full of challenges, and it's only together when you have someone with you that you can really work towards it. In our marriage, one of the key things that's really important to me is communication. It's important that we communicate with each other to share how we feel about things, and also when I've got issues or concerns or something's bothering me. It takes a while to get those communication skills, but it all ties into making sure you've got quality time together. So how often do we have dinner in front of the TV? How often do we have dinner when we're on our phones? We moved into our new house last year, and we decided not to take our TV with us. So we left our TV in my in-laws' house, and we decided that we didn't want it. And I've seen a massive change in our relationship. I've seen that we'll have dinner together on the table and we'll talk to each other. We'll ask each other how our day's going, how life is going generally. We'll sit down and have tea and coffee together. We'll go out for walks, and we'll really spend time together to talk to each other. And for me, that communication is really important. Marriage is a journey, and there's always going to be ups and downs. But for me, it's important that we work together with our spouses towards our ultimate goal, which is closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Life is so short. We have to make the most of every moment. We need to spend it with our loved ones. We need to tell them how we feel. We need to spend quality time with people around us, and we need to experience the moment.